All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks everyone for coming to our talk. Thanks for the CypherCon committee for picking our abstract. This is a culmination of 5 years of physical penetration testing between me and my coworker here. So should be a good time. So who are we? I am Ryan Zagrodnik. I'm a penetration tester with CypherCon. Been with them about 4 years, 12 years in cybersecurity. Started off as a sysadmin, did that for about 4 years, and I was an overworked, crushed soul, and I realized I couldn't do that the rest of my life. Saw, the security team's budget and got my CISSP, and I've been in security ever since. So, a variety of industries, health, finance, big data. I co-founded DC608.org, a local DEF CON group, Madison, Wisconsin, with my wife here, Allie, and this is my coworker, Chad Finkenbiner.
Hey everyone. I'm also a penetration tester at CypherCon with Ryan. I've been with them for about 5 years. A little more than 15 in just the IT, information security industry. Previously did defense and healthcare. And I am on the Twitters at Chadministrator. But no one cares about that. Let's talk about why you're going to stick around here and not go to the happy hour.
Yeah. There's free beer somewhere not here, so please don't all leave at once. So why you should say, we actually want to give this talk. I love telling these stories. My wife's tired of hearing the stories. And honestly, thinking about it, I never thought I would be able to tell half of this stuff because honestly it's confidential. But we kind of found a way for now. We'll see if this actually gets published to YouTube. But we definitely like to talk about this. We're happy to talk about it afterwards in the hallway. I'm sure we'll be in other talks tonight. So, also we want to inspire and motivate, right? I kind of talked about being overworked, crushed soul. It was, I'm 38 now. It was a long, hard crawl up the ladder to get here. So, basically, if I can do it, you can do it, and, don't stop, even though you may fall down that ladder more often than not, kind of like I did. So, also, free stuff. We're giving away all of our current techniques, and procedures, as well as our future. So, lots of value. Legal. We're not lawmen. This is not legal advice. We accept no responsibility for what you do with this information. The names have been changed and pictures have been changed, obviously. Please don't sue us. If you're familiar with phone call, that's all. It's in our speed dial for every engagement. So if you're out there, David Gruber, please answer my call. So physical penetration testing, what is it? Basically, people pay us to break in to their organization, steal things, and write a report. For us, it's normally during business hours. A lot of the cool podcasts out there talk about the after-hours stuff. So if anybody wants to hire us for after-hours stuff, we'd love to do that. But normally ours are during business hours. We also combine a lot of these engagements with external, internal, and wireless. So while I may be breaking into the building, my coworker may be breaking into the network. So it's kind of a team effort. Rules of engagement are decided beforehand. We try to get very detailed with this. Like exact address. Can we pick locks? Can we bypass? Elevators, stuff like that. So that's very important to do during the kickoff calls. And objectives range from data centers, specific floors, specific offices, even specific people. We carry a get out of jail letter. This is very important. I forgot to bring this one time, and I actually had to go out in my car and get it. So this is like the only thing that proves that you were there, that you were actually hired to be there and you're supposed to be there. So that, along with consent, obviously, is super important. So wrap it up, thanks to all those that came before us. You know, in 2015, I was sitting in a DerbyCon talk listening to Jason Street, and if you haven't seen his talks, they're awesome. And he did some crazy things, and I couldn't believe that this was a job that you could get paid to do. So yeah, thank you. We stand on the shoulders of giants. All right, so this is my evil backpack. This is kind of what I carry in every engagement. ThinkPads are super handy to carry around because a lot of people, they have ThinkPad docks because they're generally used in business. The tool up there is a under the door tool. I haven't got to actually use that on an engagement yet, but I carry it. Most of the time people are on the other side of the doors, so I try not to freak people out. The proxy card there is my gym membership. That's my most important tool. That's got me in the door of every single company, as we'll talk about. The rest of it, really, duct tape. I found myself in a situation where I went through like a stairwell and the door closed behind me, and then I was stuck in the stairwell. I had to like break into the place all over again. So duct tape, super important to carry. And my headphones, basically I just pretend like, I'm busy, I'm on my phone, I'm listening to music, and tailgate people into the building, and it's been surprisingly effective. And then obviously the get out of jail letter. So I'm gonna take a break here and turn it over to Chad.
Sure. So some of the things that I carry in my evil backpack, very similar to Ryan's. I have a Raspberry Pi in the top left there. If we're doing this in conjunction with a network pen test, some wireless adapters because wireless is usually also in scope. Network cables, some generic office keys for cabinets or file drawers and things like that. I also have at the bottom of that some Ford fleet keys that I have never had the opportunity to use, but I am dying to steal a truck or something and just watch the rest of the company melt down. It's going to be amazing. Sorry, Brian. Some lock picks, which are also, not really a tool of first resort. When I was setting up, all this stuff on the bed, and I'm going to take a picture of this, I was noticing that there's 3 lock picks that have like this black coating on them, and the hook pick and the diamond for single pin picking are just in pristine condition, and the rake is all worn off because that's the only one I ever use. Nothing else is really good for a physical pen test. Compressed air security bits, again, not stuff that I would necessarily bring on every engagement, but it's good to have the option if I think it might be useful. Ryan's going to talk about Company A.
Yeah, so we had to change everything. Right? So I think we're allowed to talk about the industry, but we'll refer to everything vaguely. So this is my first engagement. The objective was the data center, and I was completely terrified. So the week leading up to it, I listened to a lot of diary podcasts or podcasts of how other people did physical penetration tests. I got advice from my coworkers. Beverly Hills Ninja is one of my favorite movies, and Ocean's 11, obviously. So I got lucky, and the previous year we had the report, so I kind of had like a game plan to go on. If I wouldn't have had that, it would have been a clown show. So, and then I had an RFID badge cloner that I thought I totally thought like I was going to follow somebody to lunch and clone their badge and sneak into the building like a ninja, and that's not how it panned out. So. In my boss's advice, make the lie as close to real life as possible, and an airplane quote, good luck, we're all counting on you. So the day before, I drove to the location, checked out the entrances, looked for smoking areas, docks, that kind of stuff. I generally like to do this just to kind of get a feel for the building and the parking lot and the area. Chad will talk about these request to exit sensors, so you can do this cool technique where you spit through the door or use compressed air, and the door will open. So I like to look for those things. And then I went dumpster diving. So I put on plastic gloves, and it was a nice sunshiny day in July, and jumped into a nice dumpster that was not so pleasant. But again, I got lucky, and the first document I pulled out of there had like a bunch of socials on it, and I could not believe it. So I took some photographs, and we got out of there. So that was a good start, right? Tailgating, we're going to talk about that a lot. My gym card, like I said, is my favorite tool. But basically, this company was business casual, so I dressed, I tried to blend in like the Homer Simpson meme with like khakis and a polo. I printed off literally like 100 of the get out of jail letters. Like I had them in my shoes, like in my socks, like everywhere. So I was well prepared there. We'll find out, later that you'll also run into problems where your contacts don't answer, and that's a whole nother world of stress. So, so I got there, about 7:30. I kind of waited in my car and observed people going in the building. I got out and I followed this person about halfway to the door, and I chickened out. I wouldn't say I had a full-on panic attack, but I definitely went to my car and spent a good 15 minutes kind of like re-preparing myself. And another thing I didn't note in the evil backpack that's very important is a sweat towel, because you will need it. So I finally, I listened to Eye of the Tiger and, psyched myself up, and got out, followed these two people in, and got in not only through the regular doors, but there was like a man trap situation, so I had to kind of badge in twice. But people often they hear the beep when you scan your proxy card, and they assume that that card is valid. And in this particular case, no, it wasn't. People don't really listen for the mag lock to switch, and that's kind of what we kind of train people in, is to look for that, and also if something doesn't feel right, like know how to report it. So tailgating was my method of entry. I headed straight to the bathroom and tried to calm down, and that sweat towel came in very handy. But yeah, I remember standing in that bathroom thinking, I can't believe that this worked, and I'm in a company I'm not supposed to be in, right? So yeah, a lot of emotions going through. So at this point, I usually have my phone with me, and I can message my coworkers, thank God, and they can kind of guide me through the next steps. This particular company, I decided to walk around. I had an evil USB drive, and I wasn't able to find anybody that had an unlocked workstation, so I struck out there. Go through conference rooms, printer areas. Maybe I'll try to find an empty desk if I can plug in. We have some quick wins that we'll try, but in this particular case, I was quarantined. So striking out everywhere, I pretty much gave up, and I was like, I'm just going to ask somebody where the data center is, and thinking I'm going to get caught right away. And the guy was like, oh yeah, no problem, you're here, follow me. And so it ended up not being the data center. The data center actually ended up not being in the building, which I had a kind of a choice of 3 different buildings before the engagement started. So in this particular case, data center wasn't even there, but I tried to get into the network closet and ultimately failed. So, but still, that was my first engagement, and I feel like it went pretty well. So, how to defend? So, secure document storage, super important. Also, super important to train your employees to use that. I know it's easy to throw your lunch away with a whole packet of social security numbers, but try and put it in the proper container. So also, we kind of, in this particular situation, we mentioned, social engineering, right? Someone should have, I had a fake kind of badge on, but, if someone looks suspicious and is hanging out in your building for 6 hours, someone should have noticed and asked for my badge and asked why I was looking for the data center, right? So that was my first engagement.
So my first engagement was with Company B. There were two locations we're going to talk about today. The first location had a problem with building security that we're going to talk about. And well, let's just start there. So I went to this building. It was in a large metropolitan area, kind of a downtown area. You had to, go through the front door, and when you open the door, the entire floor is just a completely open lobby. There's some turnstiles in the middle where you have to badge in, and it'll let you go past and go about your day. And between you and the turnstiles is a desk for security with 2 guards there. And they were rather vigilant. I could not talk my way in there. I couldn't tell them I was there to fix the Wi-Fi or the air conditioning. If my name wasn't on the list, I wasn't getting in. So the problem with not walking into Mordor is that, well, if that's the gate to Mordor, you just walk around the gate. The back door, the back of the building had a loading dock or for deliveries and things like that. There was really no security to speak of. There was a person there who I think was a dock manager, but he sat in an office. He wasn't really out paying attention to everything. He had dock manager stuff to tend to. It was a large open space for like the FedEx truck or the UPS truck to pull in. And he really didn't have good visibility because I just put a FedEx truck in between me and him, and then I sneaked my way in the building and found the freight elevator, and then I panicked because I actually got into the building. This was, again, my very first physical penetration test. But it did work out, and got up there, worked with the, I think we were doing a network pen test in conjunction with that. So I got up to the floor, I found an empty conference room and hung out there and just kind of calmed myself down, talked to the rest of the team, tried to figure out the next moves, and it ended up working out really well. I found an unlocked workstation eventually, and I got on Microsoft Teams and found my point of contact and said, hey, I'm in the building, which was super, super cool. The way to defend, the main takeaway for this engagement was that if you do have, human security, you want to make sure that they're posted in more than one place. They had the front entrance on lockdown, but those guards were stationary. They didn't roam the building. They weren't, checking out, different areas to enter the building, and those were the only 2 guards they had. So if you can have more than just 2 at one entrance, you should do that. Or if not, make sure one of them is walking around and checking other things, because you're never going to have a building with only one way to get in or out. The other location that I had for this engagement with Company B was another office building. It was really interesting. It was badge access only, and as I don't know if this is reverse tailgating, but as someone was leaving, I had my fake Prox card, and I just put it up there. There was no beep. It didn't work at all, but she assumed that I was, doing the right thing and running my badge through the reader, and she held the door open for me, and it was wonderful. I got in, met some folks. I told them that I had, this was in another city, but I knew they had a data center in Milwaukee because Ryan was doing the physical pen test for that location. And the person I said that to said, oh, really? Well, I just transferred from the Milwaukee data center, and I don't know you. It did not go well from there. The next day was interesting because I went, during the daytime. I figure, last night I was there, I ran into some executives. This is an office building with a C-suite. Folks are, it's business casual here, right? No. This is how they were dressed. And when I was there with like my Dockers and my button-down shirt, this is what they saw. That was a mistake. But the main takeaway here is, security awareness for your employees. Make sure that they are getting training. Make sure that they have something to do when they see someone tailgating. They shouldn't just be letting folks in. They shouldn't have to wonder what to do. Give them a process, empower them, give them a phone number to security or someone else to call that says, hey, this doesn't look right.
All right, so I think it was my next engagement. It was a big one. It was 3 locations, 2 branches, in a corporate office. Things to note from the kickoff call: they had just been robbed, and everybody was spooked. So, if something were to go wrong, and they were to call 911, I was to remain on site. So, this kind of spooked me a little bit because this was in a larger city, and I did not want to end up in the drunk tank overnight or through the weekend, right? So yeah, I was a little freaked out by that. I tried to go in through a back door. It wasn't going to work. I pretended to be there to update the cameras, and I almost got in. She happened to be busy, and was about to let me in the back room, but she followed procedure and basically asked me to come back another time. So I had to move on from there, starting out with a failure and going on to the next location. So the next location, was happened to be multi-tenant. I tried to tailgate somebody in for hours. It felt like they had an elevator access via proxy card. I didn't know which floors they were on. I went out again, into the parking structure, and was chatting with my team, and finally got the courage to try again. I got super lucky. An employee was coming off the floor, was able to grab the door and get onto the floor. Got into an empty desk that happened to be a ThinkPad dock. Got on the network, ran responder, those types of things, some of our quick wins. And then I had a chance, an employee got up, and I had my rubber ducky and plugged it in. I ended up getting a shell, but something killed it by the time I got back to my car. But I totally spooked the employee that was the desk over, and she stood up and was like, who are you, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm here for my tea, everything's good, see you later. So so I got out of there, right? I did not want to. This was I think I still had another 1 or 2 places to go, and I did not want to get delayed and get arrested at this location. So yeah, I thought it was good enough, and I got out of there, and everybody was happy. So how to defend this one: security awareness, tailgating again, EDR, or not EDR. Well, EDR helps, but DLP, right? This particular case, yes, the rubber ducky is kind of configured like a keyboard, but still you should be blocking, data USB drives. If you have to allow them, have them on an isolated environment, or have additional controls on those things. So the next place, this was their corporate HQ. They had already received, their security team had already received photos of me trying to get into the last 2 locations, which were in different states, right? So I didn't know this at the time. So I'm walking around the corporate office with an evil roller backpack, and the security team had already ID'd me, but they were in on it, right? So they didn't give me up. So this one, I tailgated all the way up to the floor. They had proxy card in the elevator and at the door, but with the elevator, and it's weird, someone else will swipe. You can swipe your empty or gym card and push the same button. You would think the elevator, wouldn't work, right? But it just lit up and looked like it was an authorized access. So got on the floor, was hanging out in an empty office, and this admin assistant or somebody came in and gave me the annual calendar, and I thought for sure I was busted then, right? Because I was in this like empty office, sweaty again, and got the calendar, thought it was over. Ended up going from desk to desk, putting in the rubber ducky, and some poor lady, asked me what I was doing. I said I was, updating the phones or something, and I had to present my get out of jail letter, and in this case, they didn't answer. And this is the first time this has happened. It wasn't great, but luckily my contacts were in the building, and I did not end up in the drunk tank. So how to defend again? Tailgating. You'll see the common. You see that's the common way to get in, right? And in this case, I wasn't expecting to get very far with the elevators having the proxy cards as well, but once again, I was able to get in and got caught. So move on to the next one.
All right, so Company D, I don't remember which company this was. They had 2 floors of the building were in scope, so it got a little tricky once again because the way to get to those 2 floors, I had to go through someone else's building, and they may not have been clued into the penetration test. But it was fine because their security just didn't care, which was awesome for me. They had badge access on the elevators, which I thought was great. You guys are doing a wonderful job, but they had turned it off. So that was not great. We'll talk about some request to exit sensors and some work from home shenanigans. Here, I hope the internet works pretty well. I couldn't get a video from the actual pen test, but if you're familiar with Deviant Olaf, he gives a really interesting demonstration on how these requests to exit sensors can be vulnerable. Let me know if that's playing. So he's coming up to a bank here, the door is locked. Oh, what to do? So he's got a glass of whiskey, and he just spits, and boom. The sensor is looking for movement. It's looking for a difference in heat or something like that. Sometimes it's not very smart. If it sees that trigger, it's going to unlock the door. And I was able to use that very thing to get around their building. Here we go. So request to exit sensors. I should have. Is everyone familiar with the request to exit sensor? You have to badge in to get into the secure side of the building or the room or wherever it is. But when you're leaving, you don't have to badge out. It's a motion sensor. It's a heat sensor, and you can spit whiskey through the door, or you can use a can of compressed air upside down, and the motion of that mist, the temperature differential because it is so cold, is enough to trigger that sensor. So either spend the money on really high dollar sensors that make sure it's an increase in body temperature, make sure it's looking for motion from a shape that looks mostly like a human, or just buy a button instead that someone has to push. That's a lot cheaper.
Yeah. This was another fun one. So another, again, multi-location, retail stores and a corporate office. They were multi-tenant, so I kind of had to figure out, which part of the building they were in, and that always gets complicated, right? Like, am I allowed to pick the lock on the back of like a mall store, right? Like the building is technically owned by the mall. These are the things we talk about in our chats during engagements. So yeah, it gets complicated. You kind of have to do some recon beforehand and during. So this one again, I tailgated someone through the front door, used my gym card, gets me in everywhere. There was another door to get onto the floor, and I followed this gentleman in, and he stopped and he said, you're supposed to be here, right? And I was like, thinking I'm like, it's over. I'm totally busted. And I'm like, yeah, you know, totally. I'm totally supposed to be here. And he's like, okay, good, just checking. So again, the sweat towel came in very handy at that time because I thought for sure I was busted. In this particular case, I found in like an empty area, photographed some documents. I don't know why I did this because we were already doing internal, but I decided to plug in to the network and start, you know, YOLOing Nmap and, you know, and so I happened to be found out I was right next to the SOC team, and they had, you know, so they had a nice like TV playing like The Price is Right, and you know, I'm not like doing anything crazy, but I'm setting off alerts, and I just hung out there for a while, you know, running responder, collecting hashes and stuff, and you know, like they noticed, but they had no way to find like where it was coming from. So I spent a long time. I basically was hoping that they would, you know, track down the source of the phone call coming from inside the house, but it didn't happen. And I decided, you know, to YOLO it once again and head for the data center. I figured I'd, you know, got past one guy already. My plan was to just go knock on the data center door and hope that someone just lets me in. So I tried that, nobody answered. You know, I knocked louder, nobody answered, and then finally an employee, you know, noticed me trying to get into the data center and, you know, asked me what I was doing there, and I had to present my get out of jail letter at that time. So still a fun time, but got caught again. So, as we kind of talked about the tailgating again, wasn't really social engineering. You know, I didn't feel like that was like a particular finding in that case, even though I did technically talk to somebody and lie to them. But yeah, like you can have your physical security controls, you know, on the outside of the building, and then to get into the floor, and they can still be easily bypassed by my gym card.
So this was a fun one for me. I really enjoyed this. I think I said, yep, this is a hospital. When you're doing a physical penetration test, before you get started, after you have your kickoff call, after you get the address of your target, you need to do some reconnaissance. You know, do a Google image search. You know, maybe find out how big the hospital is, or if it's in a large or small town. I used to work in healthcare, so I had a hospital badge. My wife had a stethoscope. The lab coat was something I always wanted to have anyway, and now I had a halfway decent excuse. So I went as Dr. Chad. What I didn't realize was that this was a very small town. The hospital that day had 2 doctors in the house, and they knew both of them. I was not either of them. So that wasn't going to work at all. I brought a fake badge with me. Does anyone know the television show Firefly? So my badge is, you know, I work for the Blue Sun contracting company. This is one of my favorite. I'm going to ramble for just a second. From the hotel to the hospital, there was this computer technology store. And one day I just was, you know, I'm done working at the hospital, trying to get in for the day. I'm just going to stop in the store. So I go in, I see what's going on, I chat up with the guy. And I'm like, you know, so do you just do consumer business? Do you work for any of the companies here? Do you work for the hospital? Oh, no, I used to work for the hospital, but, you know, then they started contracting with this other large company, you know, like one county over. Oh, really? And well, Acme Technical Services. So the next day I showed up there. Yeah, I'm chatting with Blue Sun. I'm a subcontractor with Acme Technical Services. I'm here to fix printers. And, oh yeah, you're totally fine. Let me take you to the surgical suite or something stupid. And it worked out. I never would have gotten that far otherwise. You know, I couldn't pretend to be some doctor or technician. I couldn't tell him I worked in IT because, once again, there were 3.5 people in IT, and I wasn't any of those people. But if I was a subcontractor of a subcontractor of a subcontractor, it's totally believable. One of the more interesting things here was that, they kind of were, paying attention to things. I couldn't get in. They had all of the security in the world, except they had a live network port on the outside of the building that, I was able to cross a lot of things off the list that day. It was super cool, and what a unique finding. This may come as a surprise, but the way to defend is to not have live network ports outside of your building.
All right, so this was another one of my favorites. Did some recon at corporate headquarters. I was able to see an employee walking in and kind of make out, what their badge kind of looked like. So being the resourceful guy that I am, I drove to Staples and bought the badge holder. And then I went home and printed this picture I took of myself in the car that morning onto a piece of paper. And it put the company logo on it and printed off the inkjet. You can kind of see in the image there, I punched the holes out crudely, and then behind that is my gym card again. So I had that on. I tailgated the person in the front door, but in this case, the front door wasn't even locked. And their process, they had the poor receptionist. You're supposed to hold up your card to them, and they gave you the thumbs up or thumbs down. And they were 50 feet away, so there's no way that anyone was checking who was coming in the building. This elevator was proxy card again, so I kind of just hung out by the elevator and with my headphones on and waited for someone to get in the elevator, and I just followed them onto the floor. In this particular engagement, I had it was a multi-floor objective, and then I was supposed to go to a certain guy's office. So luckily I had learned from previous engagements to tape the door open in case I needed to get back in. I had forgotten my get out of jail letter, and I realized this, as I was standing on the third floor in the building. It's not a good place to be in. So luckily I talked to my contact, and he wanted me to exit the building anyway and come back in and try to get to another floor. So I was able to retrieve my get out of jail letter from my car, thank God. So that one really ended, in me sitting at the contact's desk and waiting for them to come out of a meeting. So wrapping that up, how to defend again, the tailgating, have dedicated security, and lock the front door. Right, you have the proxy cards, just make people swipe in, and if you don't have the budget for physical security, at minimum, have them have to push a button or something to get in the building, right? Even the proxy card in the elevator wasn't, I think I started that engagement at 8, and I achieved both objectives by 8:30 that morning, so.
All right, so another good one here. This was 2 locations I had to get in. To the credit of the client here, they had some really good security policies and procedures. There was some room for improvement on the execution of those, some more employee education, and sometimes, most times, I would rather be lucky than good. Once again, I'm Chad from IT. I'm always Chad from IT, and today I'm here to fix the Wi-Fi. I stopped into this location. I think I can say it was a bank. I think that's fine. There was a receptionist there, and I was telling her, hey, I need to get in. I need to look at your Wi-Fi. It's very important. And she was on the ball. I can't let you in. I can't let you do anything. We have a process for vendors. You are not on my list. Sit over there. Let me make some calls. So this is already starting off very poorly. After a few minutes, she's making calls. I go to check in with her, and she's just not she's not able to figure it out. I'm like, okay, well, let me call someone. Let me get on my phone and see if I can call my boss and we can figure this out. By my boss, I mean, let me talk to the rest of the team to see what I should do because I'm about to get caught. Eventually, after what seemed like forever, maybe 10 or 15 minutes of her trying to email people or message them on Teams or make phone calls, she gave up and she took a little Post-it note and she wrote down the name of Steve McFarland and his phone number, and she handed it to me and said, you need to call Steve and you need to figure this out. And I said, absolutely, I'm so sorry for the inconvenience. I will definitely call Steve. Who I actually did call was Ryan, and I said, Ryan, I need you to be Steve right now. And I don't actually know what Ryan said. How'd that go?
So I answered the phone, I kind of prepped a little bit for this. I was supposed to be this guy, Greg. I said, Chad's supposed to be there, update the Wi-Fi. And she said, okay, thank God. I wasn't sure. I know I'm supposed to verify with you, that they are who they say they are. So I just wanted to follow the procedure. And after that, I had to go home and part of our job is lying to people. It's trying to help them out, but I definitely, feel like I need to repent after that because this lady sounded so nice and she was trying so hard, to follow the procedure, and I just completely lied to her. And knowing, still in disbelief that this was working, one, and two, that my coworker here was going to go in and plug into their network and write them up for it. So yeah, it was kind of an ad hoc thing, but we got lucky, and I just couldn't believe that worked.
I don't care about any of that. However, the conversation went. At the end of it, it seemed to be that Ryan said, yes, this is Chad. He's supposed to be here. Give him whatever he wants. And so she still was following the procedure. She had me sign into the vendor logbook. I put my name and the time, once again, Blue Sun Technologies, that's who I am, fixing the Wi-Fi. And then she took me to the little network closet they had. She unlocked the door and said, let me know when you're done. It was beautiful. I loved it. So I always like to call out good things at the clients when I see them. And this lady, she was trying. She really was. The process and procedure she didn't have was who to call when the processes and procedures break down. She couldn't get a hold of anyone. She didn't know what to do. I wasn't on the list, but I was insistent that I was supposed to be there, and she just she needed to know who to call and figure out what to do from there when the process doesn't work. All right, I think this is my my last story. This I think is probably my very favorite physical penetration test I've ever done. Once again, Chad from IT, but I'm fixing printers today. It's totally different. Once again, it's the same company. It's a bank, and I had absolutely no plan. I was sitting in the parking lot staring at this place and had no idea what to do. I just said, okay, YOLO, let's do this. And I just walked in. As soon as I walk in the door, there's a little ante-room, foyer, lobby, whatever, and I see the banking floor, but to my left are some stairs. And I have no idea what I'm going to do at the banking floor, but the stairs could be a new adventure, so I went up the stairs. Again, I'm here to fix the printers, and this executive assistant lady greets me and is wondering why I just walked up the stairs to their bank, that people don't do this. But I told her I was here to fix the printers, and she bought it hook, line, and sinker. It was easy. She took me over to one of her printers, and I'm just pushing buttons. I'm printing test pages, or I don't know what I was doing. But I told her I was done, asked her if there were any more, and she said, oh yeah, we have some printers downstairs, and I'll take you over to them. So now I have a plan for downstairs. This is great. And I don't have to say a word, because Rachel, or whoever this lady was, is introducing me as Chad from IT, here to fix the printers. This is perfect. Well, so she sends me over to this printer in the break room, and in the meantime, this is important to note, my point of contact for this location was upstairs, and he heard me talking to her about the printer. He doesn't know anything about some guy coming to fix printers. So when she went back upstairs, he called her into his office. I don't know this yet, but he calls her into his office and says, hey, who was that? Oh, no, this is Chad. He's here to fix the printers. And he says, and he was super cool. He didn't say a word. He just said, well, is he on the vendor list? Did you check him in? And I find out later, I think Rachel was just trying to save face, and she's like, yes. And then she goes back downstairs. So I'm finishing up with this second printer. The third printer is behind the teller line in the little room where they interact with the drive-through people, and I'm trying to get behind the teller line. That's my objective today. And she comes back down. She's talking to the manager downstairs, and the manager downstairs stops me. He's like, "Well, Chad, you didn't sign into the vendor book. You need to do that. We just need to verify some things. We need to follow the processes." Oh yeah, absolutely. I love processes. I definitely want to do all of these things for you. Well, the other thing that she did was she got on the phone to some kind of regional director who is not, clued into this physical penetration test. And let's call that person Elizabeth. Elizabeth, the director, and she gets her on the phone and says, "Hey, is there someone here to, from IT working today?" And Elizabeth says, "No, I don't know who this is. Bring him into the office, have me on speaker, and I'll get to the bottom of this. I'll talk to him." So they pull me into the office. I don't get to go behind the teller line, and it's all over for me. It's done. And Elizabeth says, "Who are you again?" "Well, I'm Chad from IT. I'm here to fix the printers." She says, "Printers? Are you here to update the firmware on the printers?" "Yes. I am absolutely here to update the firmware on the printers." "Oh, yeah, I've had a ticket out with your company for about 3 weeks. Been waiting for you to come out and update the printers." "Yes, Chad is supposed to be here. Let him do whatever he needs. It's gonna be fine." So I go, and no one believes this. Everybody's radar is pinging. They are scowling at me. But this regional director said that I was allowed to go behind the teller line and update the firmware on the printers. So at the end of this, the thing that makes it my very favorite physical penetration test is my point of contact, the vice president or whomever was upstairs that knew what was going on, who, by the way, after Elizabeth said I was supposed to be there, Rachel runs back upstairs to her boss and says, "We just checked it out with Elizabeth and he is fine." And I don't know this, but I imagine that guy was just face palming. So I get done, and a few minutes later, he's asking me to come upstairs to maybe debrief him and let him know what's going on. And he was so interested in exactly what I did and exactly how I did it and how I lied to all of his employees and said, they're out to lunch right now, but can you come back in like an hour and maybe just, explain to them what you just explained to me? And everyone was so interested. They really kind of hated me a lot at the beginning of this explanation, but at the end they really did seem to understand, and I love that I got to, in the moment, explain, the sort of things that, someone, with less scruples might be able to do, and they need to stay vigilant. My takeaway here, again, is processes and procedures. I don't think I would have been able to get as far as I did if that executive assistant just had a way to say, "You know what, I think I messed up. How do we fix this?" I think she was just trying to save face, and it was awesome for me, but I think if you have your staff, if you give them a way to say, hey, I think I messed something up, hey, I accidentally let somebody, into the bank vault or clicked on a phishing email or something like that, give them an opportunity. Don't make it punitive. This is how, we all do better.
All right, so this was my first physical pen test back, basically from COVID. It was a weird time. So people are back to the office. Kickoff call highlights. I forgot to ask if the guards were armed, and they ended up being armed. So put that in bold in your kickoff call notes. Make sure that you ask that question. They made it sound like I had no chance, that the previous testers have all been caught and, I was going to fail. So I did some recon the day before. I ended up tailgating an employee in. Right when I walked in, the thing right in front of me was the data center, and I could not believe it. So it happened to be behind a RFID card, a proxy card. So I decided to go upstairs. I plugged in. I got quarantined. I wasn't, I was on a smaller part of the network. I ended up finding a printer area, and I got lucky. That particular port had NAC disabled, and I was fully on the network. So I was pretty happy with that, and decided to do YOLO rubber ducky time and walk around. I happened to get a workstation. This person got up and went to the bathroom, and I plugged in, and I didn't know it at the time until I went home and checked, and actually until the engagement was over. But that workstation that I shelled was a domain admin, and they had active sessions. So just won everything, right? Hit the jackpot. But I didn't know it at the time, right? So another huge win about this Flipper Zero thing, and it's been completely worthless to me. So I was able to clone some lower level cards. In this case, an employee had a badge on the desk, and I dropped the flipper on it, and it dinged, successful, and I could not believe it. I ended up getting to use it because I ended up getting caught outside the data center trying to talk my way in. In which case, in this particular event, I got so close. I said I was in the data center. I went to use the bathroom, and I came back and I got locked out. And this manager, was within inches of swiping his card and letting me in the data center. And his spider sense, kind of went off. And those are always really awkward moments, right? When people realize that you're lying to them, and they kind of freak out. He ended up trying to check my backstory, but ended up summoning the armed guards, and who were less than happy with me at the time. But thank God, at this time my contact answered their call, and all was well. But it could have gone a lot worse. So, conclusions.
So I know we're got to be wrapping up here. So conclusions, everything we've been talking about. Security awareness training for your employees. Tell them that tailgating is bad, social engineering is bad, and give them somebody to call when they see it. If you don't have human security guards, give them some number to call. You don't want, Rachel, the executive assistant, trying to tackle some guy getting behind the teller line. That's not her job, and she is ill-equipped to do it. Secure document handling, lock things up in a cabinet or a file drawer, network access control. If you have physical security, use them. Entry and exit controls. Don't leave workstations unlocked. We all know that. And my biggest thing is teamwork. That guy at the bank who didn't let the cat out of the bag understood that this wasn't an us versus them, it was an us with them, and he let things play out because there was a greater lesson to be learned, and I really did appreciate that. I'm going to skip future tactics, techniques, and procedures because we're getting the cutoff sign now, but talk to us in the hall. We'd love to tell you all about the things that we're doing today and are doing tomorrow. Other talks, Jason Street, Deviant Olaf, Dark Knight Diaries, those guys are great. Thank you so much for coming to our talk.